Afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of our Tuesday Talks and Tips. Today, we have Trish Blackwelder. She's a distinguished Toastmaster, past district director, and proficient for presentation mastery, as well as visionary communication. As a teacher, Trish was used to angsting, that's her word, angsting over the details of preparing lesson plans. It's a skill she's adapted to Toastmasters to solve her own learning challenges and those of her fellow members. As District 3 Pathways Chair, she conducts Pathways training sessions, responds to Pathways inquiries for assistance, and publishes Pathways Assist reference guides for District 3. Please welcome Trish Blackwelder.
Hello, everybody. Are you all ready to talk about getting new members started on Pathways? Now, Michelle, I did prepare a PowerPoint for this. Is it okay if I share that?
Absolutely.
Okay, then let me cue that up. Okay. All right, tonight we're going to talk, or today, I like the way you do that, Michelle. Morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is, in your time zone, we are going to start talking about new members and getting them started on Pathways. I wanted to give you 2 ways to contact me. One is through my email at pathways@aztoastmasters.org. The other way is, of course, through our Facebook group on Pathways Champions. And I also want to give you a link to our library that we produce here in District 3 for Pathways. That is the HTTPS URL that you see at the bottom of the screen. I'll be showing these links again at the end of the presentation, so if you don't have a chance to jot them down now, you'll have another chance later on. But let's get started with you. What kinds of questions or pain points are you trying to solve for from tonight's presentation? Michelle, if you wouldn't mind making sure all the lines are unmuted, I'd love to hear from everybody.
Okay, just a little warning before I do that. Please, if you have television like I had earlier or anything that's loud, please switch it low before I unmute everyone. Otherwise, we'll all be hit with feedback. So here we go. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Looks like everyone's in a nice quiet place. We're not getting feedback. That is great. Oops, I hear something falling.
So whoever, okay.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions or concerns that they want to make sure I cover tonight?
Maybe I could start while watching the chat to see if we have any questions. I could start with a frequently asked question every time I speak in training sessions about pathways. And people always say, well, our new members, don't have anyone experienced in our club to show them the way. We are like the blind leading the blind. How would you answer that issue or that challenge?
Okay, should I give the snarky answer or the nice answer?
Let's start with the snarky one and then the nice one.
My first answer is kind of on the snarky side, and it's always this one. Well, why aren't you starting Pathways? Everyone should be through their level 1 by now. So that usually opens up another rabbit hole then. But when I talk to people about it's a good question. And when I talk to people about Pathways, I like to point out to them that really I'm asking everyone to do 3 speeches and 1 evaluation in order to find out how Pathways works. And 3 speeches and an evaluation is something that any seasoned Toastmaster should be able to knock out really quickly. We have produced in District 3 a How to Coach Level 1 document that you'll find in that tiny URL library that I was showing you the link to earlier. If you'd like to take a look at that or download that and put it to use, feel free. The library is free and it's open to everyone. So after we get through this presentation, I think you'll have a few other answers for that question. So if there are no other questions right now, let's go ahead and proceed with my disclaimer. Remember that new members know nothing. They have never experienced the traditional program. They will know only pathways. So, in the words of Dr. Smedley, deliver the best possible member experience in every way, every day. And my snarky response is, if you're not in favor of pathways, then be careful not to let your bias show. Just like children, if you don't want them to pick up the bad language, you can't use the bad language around them. So,
okay, Trish, we interrupt, as they always say, we
yes.
interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin. Well, in this case, it's not a bulletin, it's a concern. Apparently, it's just you and I that are seeing the slides. I'm reading that Lori isn't seeing the slides. How about
Oh
the
no.
rest? Are you seeing the slides? Because I'm blissfully unaware because I'm seeing them on a MacBook screen and on an HP screen. The others, are you seeing the slides? It's a blue slide that says how to start a new member on Pathways. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Lori, I think it's you. I think the rest are seeing it.
That's kind of strange. When I minimize my screen, where it's a tiny, tiny screen in the upper right of my computer, I see it then. I don't know if it's on there, but I can see it. It's weird.
Wow. We will need to have eventually a session on the glitches of Zoom, huh? So for now, anyone else who suddenly loses the screen, please type on the chat. Oh, Andre, no slides as well. Why is this? So
That is very strange.
some people are seeing the slides. See, right now, Trish has a really cute question, like question marks on the screen. Are the rest seeing it? Let me see.
Yes, I see it.
I see the question marks now. It looks like you're showing your desktop or something.
Oh, now, Lori, you're seeing it?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay. So, Andre, are you seeing the screen now? Because now Lori is seeing the screen. Yes. Oh, wow. I don't know what that was. It must have been a little fluke in the, cyber cloud. So we're back. We're back, Trish. Sorry for that technical interruption.
Everybody should be seeing the question marks. I'm going to advance the slide. And now you should be seeing new members. Nothing.
Oh, now that is funny because now I'm not seeing it. Ooh.
We apparently have a very long delay then.
Okay. But if we were having a long delay, we would see Trish sharing screen.
Si je vois des choses, André Pilon a répondu, je ne sais pas comment que je dois faire pour répondre. Est-ce que je dois répondre là? Est-ce que je dois cliquer sur quelque chose pour répondre?
Jeanette, parlez-vous? I'm sorry, we are hearing your conversation. Do you know how to mute yourself?
No, not really.
Okay, let me, because earlier.
I can mute myself right here at the corner, the top.
Yes, please.
Lower corner, click.
Yes, please. So I had earlier muted or unmuted everyone upon upon Trisha's request. Now I am going to mute everyone. So now we've got quiet. So Trish, I am not sure what is happening,
It's fine.
but we are there. Now finally it showed up. So you just have to remember that the lag time is really long. It's about 3, 4, 5 seconds, maybe more, to move on to the next slide. So maybe before you start talking about a slide, click forward for about 4 to 5 seconds ahead.
I have actually dropped out of the show part of PowerPoint. I have animation, but we'll get through this. I can punt. It's no problem. Are you seeing 8 basic steps to pathways at this point, everyone?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good.
Yes.
We'll work with it however we can. The things that I wanted to cover today are what I consider the 8 basic steps to getting a new member started in Pathways. First on the list is helping them pick their path, and you'll see why that's first on the list in just a moment. Second would be logging into their Toastmasters profile with people that were in Pathways pre-deployment. They may never have logged into their account, so this is still relevant for transitional members as well as new members. How to activate or open the first project, how to navigate the module content, how to prepare and deliver that project speech, how to change the project status to complete. And at this point, all 6 of those steps, it's the new member that would be in the driver's seat, and they would have full control of all of these actions. The last 2 will be natural questions for them. They'll want to know, well, how do I get into the next level, and how do I earn educational awards? Those require intervention with their Basecamp manager. So it's important that they know they have a lot of control initially, but when they get down to those last 2 steps, they will need to work with their Basecamp manager for that. Are there any questions about these 8 steps to Pathways?
Why don't we do it like this, Trish? They can type. Anyone who has a question, type it into the chat. I will be monitoring the chat. If you are not familiar with the chat box, bring your cursor down to the lower part of your screen. You will see like a speaky, like a cloud blurb, and it says chat. Click on that and it will open up on the right side. You can type your question there. I will see it, and then if I see a chat, I will raise my hand to Trish. How about that, Trish? So you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. All right, moving on then. Let's talk Pathways. Our educational program is built on 5 core competencies. Public speaking being the oldest competency that we've had in the organization, and confidence being a skill that everyone gains from the experience of doing their various projects. It's not something that you learn from a book. However, what I hear a lot of people say is, as we've introduced leadership into our program, then we developed the habit of talking about our communication track and our leadership track. And those still exist in Pathways. You'll see that public speaking and interpersonal communication are geared towards the communication side of our program, where strategic leadership and management would clearly be towards the leadership side of the program. One of the mistakes that I think Toastmasters made, and I'm an honest person, I'll tell you when I think they've made a mistake, is that when they first released this document, they had the paths ordered by alphabetical order of the path name. And what I have done is I have resorted that so that the paths on the right-hand side are sorted now by the skill that they emphasize most in that path. So you'll see now that the communication follows naturally over to those paths at the top of the list, and leadership follows then in the paths at the lower part of the list. The numbers were what was confusing for everybody, so I tried to solve for this with a prospective member or a new member by simply ordering them in the emphasis. That way we go straight across from communication to communication and straight across from leadership to leadership. So what I typically do then is I ask questions, and I was working with a prospective member last night. I followed the same approach. I said, of the 4 things that you see on the left side of the paper, which one are you most interested in focusing on in your pathways journey? They wanted leadership, and she chose strategic leadership. And I said, okay, then, having chosen strategic leadership, we're looking over here at probably persuasive influence for you or visionary communication for you as a path. Now, if you've pulled this document down before, you know that behind this cover page is a detailed page on every single one of the paths. For the benefit of this discussion, I'm going to be someone that only wants to do communication. I definitely want to focus on my public speaking skills because I want to show you the presentation mastery detail. This obviously is a path that is going to help you become an accomplished public speaker, and it's going to have a heavy focus on speeches and less on leadership. But it's important to be aware that this path, being a pure public speaking path, also has all 10 of our familiar competent communicator projects still embedded in it. And you see those with the red arrows to the left of each one. The way that the evaluation and feedback project is constructed, you give a speech, you get feedback, and then you give the same speech again in an improved state. And that goes right along with organizing and getting to the point. It's also interesting to know that persuasive speaking is the only one of the 10 competent communicator projects that you'll see in presentation mastery. It is not present in any of the other 10 pathways paths. So while 9 of the 10 are consistently available throughout all 11 paths, persuasive speaking is only available in the presentation mastery path. When I present this to a prospective or a new member, I simply talk about the things that you see on the right side of this slide, that every path is going to begin with a level full of mastering fundamentals. For level 2, you're going to start finding out more about your style. In this case, because it's a communication path, it's going to be communication style, but if we were following a leadership path, it would be your leadership style. By level 3, you're going to start enhancing your skills by preparing for more complex projects and looking for electives then that are going to fill the gaps on skills that you need most to focus on. Then when you get to levels 4 and 5, you'll be challenged to do more complex projects and eventually close out your path with your finishing project. It's a progressive way of working through learning a skill, with each level adding more complexity to the process until you get down to mastering what you have learned in your level 5. I have found that by not trying to go to the computer right away, but working with these 2 simple pages, that I get a lot of buy-in and a lot of enthusiasm then from new members and even prospective members then about wanting to get started in their educational program. And I do talk about it as the educational program because it is the official educational program of Toastmasters International now. So now that we've got everybody excited, now that they're ready to get started, we've taken their membership application or perhaps already processed it by now. Their account's going to be ready for them to access, and they'll need to do a couple of things then, just like they would on any new account that they're being issued. A reminder that they've paid their $20 with their new member kit, so even so they'll see a $20 charge next to their path selection, that will already have been covered by the initial dues that we collected from them. And just like anything else, they're going to have to log in and set up a password to access their account. And once they have logged in, to simply click on this welcome at the top, and it's going to take them to their profile, which is where they can set their privacy settings. They can add to their contact information or make updates to it. it's a nice place to start that reduces a lot of the noise, and it now has been enhanced to give you access to your path work as well. Of course, the first thing they're going to need to do is select their path, but because of the conversations that we've been having, they're probably very comfortable with the way that it's going already. They may not need to take the assessment. Do they have to? No, they don't. There is a skip assessment option at the bottom, and if they really like what we've been talking about, they can jump right through and select that path for themselves. If they like to play around with a tool or see what else might be recommended for them, have them go through the assessment, but tell them to move through it quickly, go with their gut and not overanalyze anything, because at the end, they're going to see 3 recommendations to choose from. And in all likelihood, the one that we've already been talking about is going to be one of the choices that they'll be presented with. Okay. The other reason that I like landing on the profile is, again, because it makes everything so accessible. It's going to take about 30 minutes or up to 30 minutes to have that path loaded into their transcript. So one thing that they could be doing with that time is going through the navigator. The navigator will tell them more about what they can expect from Toastmasters as a member and what other opportunities they'll have for learning in our organization. At some point, they will see here that they've been enrolled in a path, and so now they can go through Basecamp, which will drop them to the familiar page with the 5 blue tiles on it, or they can go directly to their transcript by clicking on the link that's here. Okay, let's see what we've got. That is a good point about perhaps having to take the assessment. I'll have to double check on that again. I thought that anyone could skip it, but I will confirm that for you.
And
Thanks for
Trish,
putting-
thank you, Lori. I was thinking about the same thing. And the other thing is, when it's a new member, unless, again, as Lori prefaced, unless it's been changed, when it's a new member, they have just paid their $20 joining fee. When they go to purchase or choose their first path, they will not see the $20. That was before. Now I
They
have
have
not.
removed that then.
Oh, well, that
Have,
was.
have they removed it?
I thought
I saw
that.
it the first time.
Yeah, I thought that we only see it on the second path, not the first one.
Yeah, because
It's-
it said first path free before you chose a path.
Yeah, you
That-
don't see the $20 the first time.
Yeah.
I need to sit with my next new member and see that, because that's nothing I can recreate.
Right. Okay. Yeah, me neither.
Okay. If they choose the option to go directly to the transcript, and I'm going to move on quickly then, they will be landing. I have to juggle this around now. They will be landing right to this page where they'll see their path now loaded and the option to open their curriculum. Okay. From there, they can open the curriculum and they'll be taken to this page. Animation works so well until you can't use it, which we'll see the activate button here until you click on it, and then of course you see the launch button. That'll take them right into their icebreaker project, which of course has a start or begin option here, but I do like to make them aware of the pull down menu, and here's why. The pull down menu is another consistency in Pathways, and that any module that you open will always have that pull down option, and for the most part, other than the content itself, you'll have the introduction, your assignment, the assess your skills before, and you'll have your evaluation and assess your skills last on the list. Navigation is only presented on the Icebreaker project, again, to help them learn to navigate within the module content. But I like to point out that they need to step through the content, making sure not to skip the assessments, that they must do the assessment before, and then after they give their speech project, come back and do the assessment after. Otherwise, they will not be able to mark their project as complete. Okay? So this is a consistent way to learn to navigate. Now that I'm working on multiple PLAS, I use this a lot. I go in and I get my project description, I get my evaluation form, I do my pre-assessment, I come back and I do my content as I have time to go through the content, and then I prepare my speech and come back and do my post-assessment. But I use this navigation all the time, and I have many people have told me they actually prefer navigating this way. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay.
Trish, before you go on to the next point, there's a couple of, one is a question, another one is a comment, and I'm just going to read this. I didn't know that this was actually what happens. Kathleen says that the receipt for the first path shows that the packet will be mailed to the member, which has caused confusion for new members as they think it will show up in their mailbox instead of online. Now, that is something I have not personally observed. Have you had that observation?
No, again, there's things like this that will pop up that unless a new member alerts me to something, or they're willing to set with me and go through their first, their first few steps with me watching over their shoulder, I cannot recreate myself as a new member. So I don't have an opportunity to see this type of thing. I did talk to World Headquarters at one point and asked them to send me a copy of the new member welcome email that goes out, and I did not realize that there's kind of a kit that sits behind it that they have links to that send them out to a lot of that material that you can also access through the navigator.
That's right. And then there's a question, and again, just tell me if you want the questions to be read at a certain point or as they come up. Right now, we have a question from Rashmi. She's saying she's currently doing innovative planning, but she wants to start on another path too. How can I start that? What's the process? Are you going to be covering that? If not, I can just type my answer to her. Would you like to respond to that?
It's a very easy answer. You can purchase as many additional paths as you want to. I had 6 in my transcript at one time. I finished 2. I'm working on 2 more, and I have 2 sitting in the wings waiting for me. So you do have to purchase any path, though, after your first one. But if you've got the time, tackle as many paths as you're comfortable with. I have found that working with 2 paths in parallel is very comfortable for me, because at some point I had a complex project that's going to take me longer. I can continue to do projects in the secondary path then that I can move faster through, and that way I can take advantage of speaking opportunities when I have them. So does that help you, Rashmi?
She's muted, so we can assume that hopefully that's helping her.
Hopefully she'll type a response then.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, while we're still taking questions, Kathleen has a question. Can you earn education awards in multiple paths for one club? Quick answer is yes.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Yeah, back to you,
But
Trish.
you can only give one educational award to a club. So if you complete 2 level 1s, you can only give 1 level 1 to a club. You'd have to give the other level 1 to another club. But if you do a level 1 on one path and a level 2 on another path, you can give both of those to the same club.
Well, actually, Trish, you can give it, but it's just going to get thrown away in the wash. It will not be counted for DCP. But you can give it, just a waste. I mean,
that's true.
Yep.
We have too many dual members, I guess, out here in Arizona. We're giving awards away all the time to clubs.
Right.
Okay, so Now you have to, now they're reached a point where they have to turn over the keys to the car to the Basecamp manager. Yes, they've completed all the projects in their path, and they've gotten to the point where they can mark the level complete, and they can launch out and see this PDF that you're seeing here that gives them very easy instructions on how to step through that process. But at the point that they go ahead and submit that level for approval, it will initiate the request to the Basecamp manager, and the Basecamp manager needs to step in and intervene then. Now, we all understand that that's because the Basecamp manager is going to approve the level for completion, which will initiate then the next level being made available to the member, and they can continue on. But the Basecamp manager also needs to do the second step, which is to go out to Club Central and submit the award for the club. Okay, that's something that a member will understand over time, but I would just like to let them know. It's a partnership at that point. Okay, let's see. Okay, so those were the 8 steps that I thought were most important for helping a new member. I want to circle back though and remind everybody that there is a repetition when you're working Pathways, that once you get through level 1, you will have performed all the actions that Pathways will ever demand of you as a member progressing through a path. That's why I encourage all transitional members to also complete their level 1, because it makes it easier then for them to understand what a new member is going through, because they will have gone through those steps themselves. Once a member has gone through those steps, you'll find that activate, navigation, speaking, and marking a project complete are the repeatable ones. You start a project, you go through those 4 steps. You go to the next project, you do the same 4 steps again. You go to the next project, you can do the same 4 steps again. And in the case of level 1, you would then be done with that level. So I'm coming up with my own little tagline about a member 4-step: activate, navigate, speak, and complete. And if they learn that those are going to be the 4 steps that they're going to need to go through with every level that they undertake in Pathways, then again, it will be a comfortable reminder for them of what they need to be doing. All right, it is time for you to fire away. In my district here in District 3 of Arizona, as the Pathways Chair, whenever I'm talking to a group of people, I tell them that I have a big red target on my back to field all Pathways questions, good or bad. So I'm going to offer you the same opportunity. This time it's up to you. How did you feel about the 8 steps? And do you have questions or other items that we need to talk about?
Thank you, Trish. And at this point, if you have your music or anything up, please turn it down, because I am going to unmute everyone. There we are. Somebody has a television set maybe on. So everybody's unmuted. If you have questions, you can just ask them. Akira, yes, did you have a question? And maybe Trish, so we can see people on the gallery view, do you want to unshare your screen?
Yeah, good idea.
Okay.
There we are.
Thank you.
Yes, Akira.
Thank you, Michelle, for inviting me. This is Akira Sasaki from District 76, Tokyo, Japan. Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon, Akira.
Yeah, yes, good afternoon. This is my first participation to this group. So I had no chance to join this meeting. It is, I thought that this was a very interesting meeting, but I couldn't reach to this meeting because the deadline is changed. So from the 23 Tuesday, this is the 21st in Japan, Tokyo.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yes, I'm very happy to join this meeting this time.
Finally, good.
Yeah, okay.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah. At first, I couldn't join immediately because I misconnected speaker with receivers uh, receiver's connection, so I couldn't hear any voice from you. So very sorry. I could understand what I was made mistake.
It is a learning experience for all of us, even
Yes, yes.
those who use Zoom for years. It's still a learning experience. So, Akira, do you have any questions about what you heard? Because you mentioned you didn't hear everything, but what you heard, do you have any questions or any concerns related to how to get new members started on Pathways?
Yes, recently I feel as you know, I'm belonging one online club, and experiencing the reality of the meeting. So basically, the vice president education has a, uh, right to accept or not of the speaker's request.
Mm-hmm.
So although I finished the previous speech very, very long ago, at least 3 or 4 months ago, but I can't follow next speech. This is the reality. So at another point is to secure evaluator in advance, relatively earlier time than uh, uh, than the day of the meeting. Recently, just before the meeting start, the evaluator for my speech is decided. This is a little very different what I was expecting to learn the pathways in the online crowd. Yes.
Well, Akira and Trish, let me just quickly respond here. Online clubs are, you know, they're still Toastmasters clubs, except that sometimes because there's an added issue of connectivity, sometimes the evaluator assigned cannot show up, and because of connectivity issues or certain other issues. But that is the same whether it's Pathways or whether it's a traditional program. Those are the same issues we have to deal with. So maybe, Akira, you know, unless Trish, you have anything to add to that, maybe we could open the floor if there's anybody else with a question. Oh, here we have a question from Swapnil.
I
Are
was just
giving
seeing that one.
icebreakers somewhat neutral, how to encourage them for completing the next projects in level 1. That is right smack into your topic, Trish. Would you like to speak on that?
Absolutely. One of the projects in level 1 that I am absolutely thrilled about is the evaluation and feedback project. And the reason is it's core. It's what our organization has always been about. It's a different approach from what we were used to from the traditional program. And because typically we always heard, oh no, you don't want to be an evaluator yet, you're not ready. Everybody is ready. Pathways has a level playing field when it comes to learning, and I could spend a lot more time on this, but I'm going to try to be brief on it. By doing the evaluation and feedback project, they are going to learn 2 fundamental skills to Toastmasters. One is the art of crafting a speech. It's one thing to put the speech together, but to get the feedback back from your peers about how you might have improved that speech, to be able to take it back and craft it and refine it. That is a mastery skill to learn as a Toastmaster, because as you get better and you learn to self-evaluate, you can craft better, refine better, and be more successful at speaking. I think it's tremendous that they have moved that up into the fundamentals level to introduce that skill right away. The third part of evaluation and feedback is being an evaluator. And I'm giving an entirely separate presentation right now in 2 other audiences about the Pathways Evaluation Program and the 8 standard criteria and learning content and style right from the get-go. The way that the Pathways evaluation sheets are prepared, the overview on the front page will talk about content and style and well-structured, well-supported. These are some of the keywords that you'll see in the objectives at the top of the page. But the value of the Pathways evaluation comes on the back or the last page of the form, where it has the sliding scale of 1 to 5 and what that means from exemplary to developing. This is how we can help fast track the skill set to become a much better evaluator. Instead of saying, oh no, you're not ready yet. Oh no, you're not ready yet. We now have a consistent approach that every new member can start learning right from the get-go with that very first valuation. And if you haven't had the time to take a look yet at all the evaluation resources, you'll find that 8 of those criteria that support content and style are consistent on every single evaluation form we have in Pathways, with few exceptions. They are always there. And then the skill-specific evaluation are added to the bottom of the, or to the end of the list. This is so important because if you really think about it, content and style is how we've been determining the World Championship of Public Speaking for decades. And to start teaching that to our new members right from the get-go, I think are 2 huge advantages. Now, when I talk about them, everybody gets excited about moving on then to that evaluation and feedback project.
Thanks, Trish. Yes, we really have to model it, because if we ourselves are saying, oh, I don't know why they have evaluation on level 1, then what are we saying? But when we do like Trish is doing, where we're excited about it and we don't just talk about it, we actually sell it because we ourselves have bought into it, then they will feel it and they will get excited. And there's also, Trish, I'm sure you mentioned this to your clubs, there is a video that they can watch.
Yes.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. You can click on that video. It is so helpful because it shows you how a not good evaluation is versus an evaluation that points out recommendations and also the areas that are good. I really like that.
When I'm mentoring new members, once I have them in to base camp and starting on their paths, as I'm working with them, I can also send them an email. Oh, you should go check out this video, or oh, you should go check out this resource. It'll help you with the challenge that you were having that we were talking about, rather than just trying to say, oh, go into tools and resources and just fish through and find things. I like to direct them specifically to things, and again, that's part of the mentoring role that I encourage people to do.
Great point, really, because if we just tell them to go in, especially because I don't understand why Toastmasters decided to have the numbers first. So it's 8205, 8500. Unless you know the 8500 is the DTM project, you will get lost. So having somebody send that specific link, that is very powerful. Thank you. Does anybody else have any comment, question, suggestion, experience, best practice that you want to share? And I know that I believe I have unmuted everyone. Wow, this is a very quiet group. No television in the background, no dogs barking.
Well,
Do they sleep out there?
I hope I didn't speak too soon.
This is Kathleen. I have a quick question. One of the things I feel like I'm noticing in a variety of clubs is that there's some members who are gung-ho. They go in, they don't ask any questions, they figure it out, and they're on their way. And then there are those that want to sit there and kind of observe, and they want to, that's true of often of newbies. They want to get really comfortable before they take a chance or a risk. Any words or ideas on how we might support them embracing it from the get-go or sooner than later?
My mentor, and when my first mentor in Toastmasters, talked about bite-sized chunks, that people do so much better when we don't overwhelm them, but instead give them bite-sized chunks. And so my approach for bringing new members on board has always been in bite-sized chunks. So I try to dole it out. I try to keep what's important right at the forefront. And as they continue to have success experiences, then you can, make things more advanced, more elaborate, whatever. Enthusiasm is always key. And when people are excited about something and feeling encouraged to, to go outside their comfort zone, then it's easy to keep them motivated and moving. So typically when I see somebody pulling back like that, I'm thinking in my head that they've probably bit off more than they could chew. They went down some rabbit hole in base camp and got themselves lost and got discouraged, or feel, embarrassed because they don't know what question to ask. So it's a lot of hand-holding and conversation then, trying to draw them back out again. In my club, we didn't used to have an active mentor program, and we made a commitment we wanted to improve that. So we do assign a mentor, but instead of assigning one, we ask them if there's someone that they feel comfortable with initially that they might want to work with, and we try to get those people to get on board with mentoring them. And then we have a checklist of short goals that we want to make sure that those mentors get those people through, so that they stay encouraged and stay motivated to want to keep going. But I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I think it's where you have to have the critical conversation. Then you have to do everything you can to try to connect and find out what the obstacle is for them, and then solve for it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Colleen, you have unmuted yourself. Do you have a question? Or
I was a Pathways guide. My club is 100% on Pathways. I do have 2 people finishing their DTM. They're within a few speeches, 1 project. But this year I'm also area director, and I have 2 corporate clubs that are so far behind. But basically I've been doing the same thing that was recommended here, but it's a real struggle to figure out how to do it with a corporate club when you're not a member of that club. I'm hoping this week something will change. I have a very adamant, relatively new Toastmaster from Russia, and she's going to one of my corporate clubs to deliver her second speech in her second path. And I'm hoping she's going to bring some enthusiasm. And her speech is called "From Russia with Love." So
wow, wow, that is awesome.
I'm hoping
I want online access.
She's done a few speeches, and she talks a bit about Russia, and she loves Canada, and she's just one of those real outgoing people, which I'm not. So I'm hoping that's going to get them going. But they work in a government corporate office, and we've had political change, and things are not great there. So we really have to do something. So I hope this love from Russia will help a little bit. And they found some money, and they're having pizza this week. So
nice.
I'm just hoping. Otherwise, the club's down to 8 members, and they're really struggling.
Yep.
Hey, maybe they'd go for something like what we're doing here with the tips and talks. What we're doing, the Tuesday talks. I got it backwards. Now I got stuck on. But set up something fun where you can meet with them outside of business hours, and do it virtually, so you don't have to go driving everywhere, or everybody has to get there.
That's a problem. I live in Northern Ontario, and many people live outside the city, and they do not have adequate internet connection. They can get their email Most of them are fine if they live in the city. The president of that club lives on the edge. She can't do video. She has joined us by phone on some things. And in the next town over, they don't even have internet. But
But a bridge line will work.
Yeah.
I mean, a bridge line, if that's all you can get, then that's all you can get. But still make it a fun gathering and get to know everybody a little better. And that way they're also free to speak a little more freely.
We just started those things. So also, I have a member she was a Pathways trailblazer in our club, and it made me have to catch up to her, but I actually passed her. But she's doing leadership development, and so for her project, she's having her 50th birthday, and she's invited us all to a birthday party in September.
Wow, that sounds great. That sounds great. I just saw a question from Binish. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Binish. His question is whether the base camp manager needs to see the evaluation sheets for them to approve the level of a member. Trish?
That's a great question. And the answer is it's not required. It's a club culture decision. However, your VPE or as the club you have agreed, you're going to ask for supporting documentation. Then you'll continue that in Pathways. You have the option of seeing a paper evaluation form or a digital evaluation form. But here's the one thing, the myth buster that I do want to make sure that everybody is aware of. No one can see anything in a member's e-portfolio. If Michelle loads up all of her evaluations to the e-portfolio, I as base camp manager cannot see those documents. So don't think that you're going to use access to e-portfolio to do any of your verification. My clubs have been on the honor system for years. We're staying that way. So when the member submits for the approval, we just approve it.
Amen to that. Me too. I'm a member of 7 clubs, and none of my clubs want to see anything in terms of documentation. Well, number one, all our speeches are recorded anyway. So
well,
that helps. That helps. But also, where's the integrity? And that's really it. So unless you suspect that there is something that's not right, then if the member says, I've done it, of course, there are obvious things. Like somebody, I think, was it Lori or somebody shared that a new member suddenly was done with level 1 and they knew that member did not belong to any other club. Then obviously the member had clicked through without being aware that clicking through and clicking the assessments through ends up with you being done without having actually done it. I am looking at the time and we have, wow, time flies. We only have 4 minutes left. We have a question or point. Does Club Central require entering the names of the speeches given in Pathways? Quick answer, no.
No. Base Camp takes care of that, of tracking all the project completions. Club Central only will pick up that the level has been completed. It will know that the level was marked complete in Base Camp.
Right. And even in Basecamp, the speech titles are not required. It's
never recorded.
Yeah. Great. We have, wow. Do you have any wrap up words, Trish, before we wrap up? Yes.
New members are the heartbeat of our organization. And what breaks my heart is people saying, well, we can't recruit because we don't understand Pathways. I'm doing everything I can as Pathways chair to try to bring the knowledge, forward to folks. But the thing that has been the most effective for me is simplifying level 1 down to 3 speeches and an evaluation, and talking about that with every member that I see. Get that level 1 done, and you will have done, again, everything that Pathways will ever ask from you as a member. And once they realize that it's not so overwhelming and that doesn't take them down rabbit holes, but keep the simplest approach to getting into Base Camp, getting to that transcript and getting that work done as possible. And you'll find that a lot of the complaints will drop down. New members then will have the mentors that they need to help them. So it really is about going on a campaign to get everybody to complete level 1.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Trish. And at this point, let us all give Trish a really big round of applause. Thank you, Trish. Thank you. Thank you. And let me just very quickly mention our, oops, I was going to share my screen. There is always a sequence thing. You have to share first before you enlarge. So hopefully you are seeing that next week we are having the other side, the flip side of this conversation. Today we spoke about how to help new members get started. Well, next week, episode 5 on July 30, and that's 31 for you, Akira, and anybody in Asia or Australia or New Zealand. Yes. Next week, we are having a session on how do you retain members who are unhappy with pathways. And I know each one of you has met at least one of those members. How do you retain members who are unhappy with pathways? That will be next week's session, same time, same day, same Zoom channel. We hope to see you all. And guess what? The special treat is if you have questions from Trish that you didn't get to ask today, you can ask her next week.
Ah! I'll have a big red target on next week.
Yes, you will continue wearing the target between now and next week. Oh, and the other thing, which is really cool, is that if you want, you can message me. Most of you probably have me somewhere on your Facebook, but if not, you can, let me type my email. Hopefully by now you all know how to use the chat. If not, it is down there on the lower side of your computer. And right now you will see on the chat that I have typed toastmastermichelle@gmail.com. And the other thing that some of you may not be aware of is you can save everything in the chat by clicking on the save. You click on save. First, there's everyone, the lower part of the chat. Then you click on the right side and then you click save chat. When you click save chat, then everything that you have, everything that was typed, except those that were personal, private, you don't get to copy that. Just like in Basecamp. You don't get to copy the private stuff. But other than that, oh, there you are. Trish has also placed her email address, pathways@aztoastmasters.org, to reach her. So if you have further questions between now and next week, you can email Trish, or you can email me, or you can email both of us. At this point, we will now stop the recording. If I can just get my clicker on recording, there you are. We will stop